Hey everyone, Zane here. I want to do a quick video on tritone substitution. It's something that guitar players often find a little bit confusing, so I thought I would share some insights that I have gained over the years. Tritone substitution is relatively straightforward. Basically, if you take a dominant 7th chord, let's say A7, I'm going to use this jazz voicing here, which is 5E, 5D, 6G. You can substitute the root of that chord for a tritone up or down from where you are, it'll be the same note either way. And 2/3 of that chord is going to remain the same. So A7 has the notes A, C sharp, E, and G. And E flat 7, which is a tritone away, has the notes E flat, G, B flat, and D flat. D flat, C sharp being the same note. So that means, theoretically, the nucleus of this chord, sans the root note, is the same, right? So in the context of, say, a 2-5-1 chord progression, if we were in the key of D minor, a straight up 2-5-1 would be E minor 7 to A7 to D major 7. Now if you wanted to create chromatic root movement, what you could do is play E minor 7 down to E flat 7 and then down to D major 7. The resolution, the dominant resolution from that A7 to D is exactly the same when you substitute the root note. You get a slightly more intense sounding chord because you get this chromatic sort of gravitational pull down to the root. So you get it all the time. It's the same as, like, when you're playing in a blues. If we're in the key of A and we're going, and you play like a semitone above the chord you're going into and then go down, that's a tritone substitution. We're playing an E flat 7 chord, which is essentially just a version of A7, and then it goes down to D. Now when you play something like that, what it does is it implies an altered chord. So A7 by itself is a nice sounding chord, but if you play that E flat 7, particularly if you play like an E flat 9 or an E flat 13, all of those extra notes would be the notes you would play if you're going to turn the A chord into, a raised 9, flat 9, raised 5, flat 9, all those combinations of altered chords. So a lot of the time, you don't actually have to worry too much about this as a guitar player because you've got a bass player, and the bass player might be doing it anyway without you realizing. They might be doing stuff like that kind of root movement like that. But it just makes it interesting if you're playing chords. It also means that if you're soloing, there are different options that you can use. A lot of people find the concept of playing altered stuff confusing, and it can be confusing. A really easy way to achieve that altered sound is just, if you have a resolution like this, like say for example in a blues, if you're going from, we're in the key of A, say in the 4th bar, when you're going to go, you're preparing to go to that chord 4, which is the D, just play an E flat 7 lick over maybe the last 2 or 3 beats of bar 4. And that will give you that altered sound. So you've got all your A7 stuff. Then you've got E flat 7 stuff, which would be, and that sound, without me having to think, alter this, what notes do I have to raise, what do I have to change, I'm just thinking E flat, and move it down into D. So you get something like this. And so forth. So it's not such a wild concept to kind of get your head around, but it just takes a little bit of time. So choose a chord progression, just look at what would be a tritone away. It can work with any chord essentially. but it works best with dominant seventh chords naturally. You know, you can turn any chord into a dominant seventh, you can turn any dominant into an altered chord, you can substitute any dominant, but now we're getting into like slightly more esoteric, remote jazz substitution sort of theoretical concepts. But just find a chord progression. If there's a 2-5-1, substitute the 5 for a tritone substitution. Another thing that you might find kind of interesting, if you look at, sometimes you might come across chord progressions that move up a semitone. So you might get like, you get that in caravan and tunes like that. That is a tritone substitution. It might be a bit hard to spot initially, thinking like, hang on, this is moving up a semitone. But essentially all that's happening in that chord progression is it's a 1-5 vamp. E, 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 E. Sorry, A, E, E, E. But it gets a slightly more Eastern sort of flavor when you move up. You get that, it sounds, like it's outside, and there's that really intense dissonance. Gravitational pull is immense, and it's resolved when you move back down. So if you have a groove like that, the semitone higher note is just a substitution for the 5 chord. So if you had, caravan, and you were vamping A7 to B flat 7, you could just be playing like A licks with some E stuff in it, like that kind of thing. If you've got any questions about tritone subs and the like, drop a comment below, and I'll be doing a couple more videos like this. So take it easy, cats. Please hit subscribe. Share these videos with any guitar players you think might appreciate them. I'll catch you around soon.